underneath the sink. And so I was wearing this cute blue white outfit, and the conditioner was blue. And I remember her dumping all the conditioner on my bed, throwing me on the bed, and smacking me around a few times. And I remember because I was wearing my white outfit, and it was all blue by the time we got done with this fiasco. My dad was drinking at this time, and he was there at home, and she threw me across the room. And my dad saw it happen, and he's like, "Why did you just throw her across the room?" And she's like, I didn't throw her across the room." And he's like, "How did she get from here to there?" And she's like, "She walked." And then he just let it go. I'll never forgive him for that one. But anyway, she was terrible. I remember having a dream that like one of my dad's friends got sexually inappropriate with me. And to me, that's a weird dream to have. I think it was like more prophetic because he was still lingering around even after my dad was in jail. So I didn't know anything about that as a kid. Like this was before she had essayed me. So I told her about the dream, just thinking I was confiding in an adult. I could talk to my grandma about anything, so I felt like I could talk to anybody about anything. So I told her, and I used to play football with the group of boys in the neighborhood, and she ended up going out there and embarrassing me and telling everyone that this guy raped me. Instead, I said it was a dream. I literally told her it was a dream that it happened. And she said that to everyone. And of course, all these fucking boys are now making fun of me as if it actually happened. And I was so confused. I was literally so confused. Like, what is even going on? You know? And so the day that I snitched on her to the fucking school counselor, CPS did their thing, and the next day I was back in the fucking home, and she was beating the shit out of me, smacking me around, throwing me around, and she was like, "See, Greg, this is why we don't say these things to people." And I'm like, "What in the fuck?" And there was a time previously where she had told the bishop at her Mormon church that I was misbehaving, and I tell this story a lot, right? And she said we were misbehaving, and so we had to be interviewed by the bishopric. So I was being interviewed by this guy, and we get to this question where he asks, and I interpreted it where it's like, "Are you being abused?" That's what I heard. And I was like, "Oh yeah, my stepmom's abusing me. She's been hitting me, she's been drinking, she's been doing this, she won't feed us, like she's bringing strange guys home at night and having sex with them, she's leaving me at bars. She fucking sucks." And he's like, "Oh no, 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 sorry. Are you abusing anyone?" And I'm like, "Are you kidding me right now? Are you fucking kidding me? Do I need to fucking shank you? Because what the fuck? You know? I don't even remember what happened after that because I just like it blacked out of my mind. I don't even remember. I just remember that specific moment and I was baffled. I was confused. I was baffled. I felt like no one was going to help me. So that was previous before the bus lady picked me up and dropped me off at school. So, when I got back to the house after that, she, got worse, and she was ostracizing me against my brother. And I think like a bit before, I had made like a scavenger hunt for my brother. He loved Twixes, so I got him little gifts from the dollar store, and I made like a scavenger hunt, like, "This is where you hang your clothes," and then you would find the next Twix, which would have a gift with it. And then he really seemed to enjoy it. And then, like, a few days later, he was like, it sounded like he was like coerced to say this. He's like he kept looking at her, I remember, and he kept saying it like as if it was like it sounded just like she told him to say it. And he's like, "And yeah, Jess, I didn't really actually like the Twix thing that you did." Like, that's what it sounded like. And it was like, I feel like she's telling you to say this. Whatever. I don't blame my brother. I think he was just so desperate to be loved by a mom and dad. I don't blame him at all. But we both got taken out of school. I chose to stay in the foster home because, once again, I'm the oldest daughter. So when they were drinking, I was left to clean up the mess. I was the one cleaning up the house. I was the one cooking for me and my brothers and stuff like that. So I knew that if I went back, that it would just enable my father. Much like my grandparents wouldn't take us in because they knew it would enable my father. So I understand my grandparents from that aspect, right? So I spent my 10th birthday or ninth birthday in the I think it was my 10th birthday in the group home. And that was great because it was like my first sense of like sisterhood. It's a whole bunch of girls and they loved me. They were so sweet to me and they were just so kind and considerate. And we all had come from abusive backgrounds, so it was really great. And through that back and forth to my grandparents, I experienced through foster care, several foster homes, which they weren't terrible. One lady did punch me in the head, but I left there. But in and out of foster care, and then come around like 15, 16 years old is when my health gets really bad. I end up going to the hospital with MRSA. I spend the one semester in the hospital. Teachers want me to drop out because I'm graduating early anyway, year early anyway. And I'm like, no, I don't want to do this again. So I did all my tests and all my all my homework in the hospital while going through constant surgeries. I lost count at 12. Like, I had surgeries constantly. And even one surgery, I died because they wanted to put a PICC line in, which is like a IV that goes into your arm right here because it leads up into a main artery. The walls are thicker, so the medicine for MRSA is really like really rough on your veins, and because it's really antibiotic resistant. And so, yeah, I ended up dying, which really sucks because I was alone. So I feel like nobody would have known, you know. But made it through that and graduated out of high school with military awards, 3.8 GPA, honors, and AP classes under my belt. So AP is college courses if you're not familiar. So I did really well in high school. It was really my sanctuary going to school in general. Um, and then, I got MRSA again, and it came a time where like they ended up, I got so sick that they needed to give me fat and lipids and stuff like that and electrolytes. So I remember they gave me the lipids one morning, and it's like 7 o'clock shift change. They're giving me the lipids, and I remember waking up and my arm is like swollen, right? And they like it blew the vein or something, and that can be bad because it can deteriorate the muscle, right? So it's like 9 a.m. in the morning. I'm like 17, maybe 18 years old at this point, and I'm getting like literally 16 shots in just my forearm. And they're like, I'm so sorry. I'm like, yeah, whatever. It's okay. Like, you don't have to be sorry. Like, I'm just so fucking used to this at this point. So, on top of like medical trauma that I've gone through, the family trauma and things like that, and then I dated, unfortunately, a pedophile at 18 years old. And unfortunately, my grandfather, after the whole like scenario with being in the hospital for MRSA, my grandmother took me in. My grandfather tried essaying me. So, I wouldn't say he essayed me, but he tried coming into my room and like was like trying to touch up on me and be weird, and he asked me to like touch him, and I'm like, what? No. Get the fuck out of here. And I couldn't really tell my grandma, so I told my aunt, my grandma's daughter, and my aunt was like, and you're not lying. I'm like, nope. So my aunt told my grandma, and my grandma had me sit in her office and tell her everything that happened. And so I told her. She typed it up in her office. She worked from home. And like one of my best memories was remember listening to her type. She typed really fast, and I always hoped that I could type fast, and I can, but now my joint's really bad, so I can't anymore. But maybe I'll get better, and I can get back to like 90 words per minute. But she confronted my grandfather. He admitted. And do you think they did anything? No, because in the church it's more about rehabilitation and like just pray, blah blah. And he still got weird with me. Like he would come, like I would sleep on the couch because like I was scared to sleep in my room because he was always like trying to get into my room. And he would like purposely walk out in the middle of the night like naked, and it was so fucking aggravating. Like, and I would just pretend that I'm asleep, that I didn't see him. And he would watch shows like Naked and Afraid and like try to coerce me to sit with him and watch them and stuff. And for you guys who don't know, that's classic grooming signs. That's like trying to normalize that stuff so it's not so unnormal when he gets around to doing the thing. So, unfortunately, I ended up dating this guy who was 10 years older than me, and my family didn't think anything of it because, hello, there's a pedophile in the family. And my stepmom's a pedophile, so it's like, oh, well, that's why nobody stopped me. That's why nobody said it was weird. The only person that said it was weird was one girl in the hospital, my nurse. She's like, you don't think it's weird that someone so old has, like, wants something to do with you? And at the time, I didn't understand. But slowly through the years, I understood. And this guy, like, I found out he dated a 14-year-old, and that's where it clicked, that I was groomed and everything. Because he started dating me, like, when I freshly turned 18. As a matter of fact, he attended my 18th birthday party. So, dealt with like a really abusive relationship. I dated a couple good guys after that, and then went back to him, unfortunately, as like a save myself mode because I didn't want to be in California. I needed a place to go. So, moved in with him, and then found out a whole bunch more other shit. Came back to Arizona, moved into an apartment, dated a guy that I thought like maybe I'd help him and he could help me. So he didn't work, and I helped him get a job and everything, paid for the bills. I was taking chemo at the time, which I was off and on chemo from like 14, 15 to like 25. It's really common for people who have severe autoimmune illnesses to take a low form of chemo. So that shit made me barf all the time. And at this point, like my elbow was like ballooned up, and the doctor didn't give a shit. And I was like, this medicine is not helping. So I took myself off of it. I was drinking heavily. And I just like, I remember it was like literally, I woke up one night, I kicked him out. I remember seeing him walk down the road leaving, and I was like, good. Bye. And then I had like my bedside. There's usually like, you know, when you have a bed in the middle of the room and you have both sides? My side was filled with like White Claws because I would get like a 12 pack and just smash it in a day, you know? And so I just woke up one day. I was like, I'm done with the chemo. I'm done with the drinking. And like, I drink a beer every once in a while, like, you know, once a month or once every 3 weeks, but not very much anymore. And, you know, I just quit the bad habits. And that's when I quit my job and started doing online social media, doing OnlyFans. And I started doing really well with it. And then there was one month that I really ran into a rut and I couldn't figure out. I just got 90K followers on, or like 85K on TikTok. I was like, how do I translate that to this? You know what I mean? And so I didn't know much about community guidelines and stuff like that. So I think I actually had my OnlyFans link in my bio. So that probably may have been why I got taken down. But you know, I had some friends that I could lean on during that time. I started taking acid a lot, which was the beginning of my healing journey, which we'll get into that. I've talked about my acid stories before, so we'll talk about that sometime in September. But you know, I've been through a lot. Okay, so that's the trauma that I've been through. As you can imagine, it kind of has been like nonstop survival. And I didn't know I was in such survival even when I was thriving. I didn't know that I was still acting out of survival, you know? And so, you know, I dated the last guy. I wouldn't even say dated, but I was in a weird situationship, got pregnant. My son's in an adoptive home, which is literally the best thing ever for him. And I wouldn't say that's trauma, but when you go through pregnancy and give birth, it does create like a trauma to your body, right? So I've been through way too much that's put my body into survival and I didn't know it was. And if you know anything about prednisone, it's a natural, like essentially like cortisol, like a synthetic cortisol. I mean, not natural. So it spikes your cortisol and it's also like synthetic cortisol in a way because that can like lower your inflammation, but it also can make it worse. So I leaned on that for so long and I thought it was doing good by me, but you know, I didn't know until recently that it was spiking cortisol and making things like that's why I would forget what I was saying like instantly. You know, if you guys remember like a year ago or whatever, I'd say something and literally forget instantly what I said. And it's cuz stress is cortisol and that's why when you're really stressed you get brain fog and stuff. So like for me I was like brain fog and I was always in pain. So like my body was like disconnected from my mind because if I walked and I felt my body, it would make me want to pass out. Like I felt like I was like floating on air because I felt like my body was disconnecting from my mind to like save myself from feeling the pain because it was so bad. So my body, my mind, everything, my soul has been through a lot. And it wasn't up until, you know, this last year that I'm like, I think I'm still in survival. Even though I'm doing what I love, I think I'm still in survival, which is why I'm running into these ruts of financials and stuff like that. And more recently, you know, I've been following my holistic way for about 10 years. And just more recently, in the last 2.5, 3 years, have I started honing it down. If you followed, you know, I've been doing parasite cleanses, all the diets people suggested. I've tried it all. But what's really made a difference is the EFT tapping, which is why we'll talk about it next week because it's impacted my life so tremendously that I want to share it with you guys. But what EFT tapping does is it's like, you know, in certain areas where you're tapping, there's nerves that are kind of like bundled up there in a sense that intersect, and it's called meridian points. And while you're talking, and you're resetting your subconscious, and your subconscious is not something that you can actively look at. While you think you can, what you're actually looking at is your conscious. And they say like you're 5% conscious and 95% subconscious. So I knew like I'm capable of making big money. I knew that I'm capable of doing the good things and the things that I want and making a name for myself and everything, you know, and being able to help people with whatever I build, you know. And it's something that I've always wanted. I've wanted a restaurant since I was 6, since I got that Easy Bake Oven. I actually have like an old cookbook that I wrote when I was 6, 7 years old. I think 6 years old. And I've always loved food, always loved cooking. And I have a saying that there's three universal languages. It's love, music, and food. And I love feeding people, if you know me. I love eating with people. Like, you know, if someone comes into town, I don't want to go to an amusement park or anything. I just want to go out to eat together because I love sharing a meal with people that I love. And so it was more recently that I realized that it was survival that was still keeping me in this loop of like rent, you know, my body. And so recently with the EFT tapping, like it's helped me put down the cannabis, which isn't bad, but it didn't allow my body to naturally regulate. It was putting a band-aid over what felt like was regulation, but it wasn't actually. So the cortisol was still high, the joints were still inflamed because of the high cortisol, and craving junk food, craving coffee, all these things because of the high cortisol. And then on top of it, if you know how much coffee I drink, a lot. Some days I was getting